So you pull out your phone, you tap a screen maybe 3 times, and like 2 days later, a flat cardboard box just shows up in your door.
Oh yeah, the classic flat pack delivery.
Right, you spend an hour wrestling with this tiny Allen wrench, and boom, you have a bookshelf.
Yep.
I mean, it's frictionless, it's efficient, but frankly, it is entirely forgettable.
Well, and that flat pack, medium density fiberboard furniture is essentially just, a giant sponge glued together.
Yes.
The moment it hits any humidity or you try to move it to a new apartment, it just starts disintegrating.
It really does.
Yeah.
But contrast that with walking into a room and running your hand along the edge of, say, a custom hand-planed walnut dining table.
Oh, that's a completely different experience.
It is. That solid wood behaves entirely differently. It's this bundle of tightly bound carbon straws that breathes and bends and holds centuries of mechanical strength. It demands your attention. And that stark contrast between the disposable and the crafted is exactly what we are dissecting today.
Yeah, because we are looking at this massive cultural shift happening right now. You have this traditional, deeply hands-on hobby woodworking, and it's transforming into a highly profitable side hustle.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It is. And to really grasp the mechanics of this shift, I want you to picture the conceptual backdrop of our discussion today.
Okay, set the scene for us.
Imagine a really rustic, grounded workshop. The air smells sharply of fresh pine and sanding dust. You've got these heavy, rolled-up blueprints on an oak workbench, intricate wooden joints clamped together under pressure, and this whole wall of well-maintained hand tools. It's just a completely tactile space.
I can literally picture it. And the core mission of our deep dive today for you, the learner, is answering a pretty compelling question. Can you realistically turn a relaxing creative outlet like that tactile workshop you just described into a legitimate business without losing the joy of the craft?
Right, because that's the dream for so many people.
Exactly. So we are treating this as a case study on how passion intersects with commerce. Because if everyone can just tap their phone for that cheap flat pack bookshelf, why is there a sudden surging demand for premium, old school wooden craftsmanship?
Well, I mean, it's a direct psychological reaction to our highly digitized, automated environment.
Makes sense. Like a pushback.
Exactly. People are actively rejecting mass-produced items because they suffer from what you could call aesthetic fatigue.
Aesthetic fatigue. I like that term.
Yeah, when millions of living rooms look exactly the same, individuality becomes a premium commodity. Consumers are searching for items that carry a distinct personality, physical weight, and a narrative. They want to know the hands that milled the wood.
That desire completely validates the business model. When you look at the fundamentals, woodworking offers some incredibly attractive features for a side hustle.
Oh, for sure. The startup costs are remarkably low compared to, launching a tech startup or renting a retail front.
Right. You can run this out of a garage on a Saturday morning. But let's get into the mechanics of what actually sells. Because you can't just build whatever you want and expect a business to thrive.
No, you really can't.
Our source material outlines 5 main product categories, but I'm really curious about the customer journey here.
Yeah.
I mean, people don't usually buy a $3,000 custom dining table from a stranger on Instagram right out of the gate, do they?
They absolutely don't. The smart woodworker builds a sales funnel. You have to start by capturing customers with high-margin, entry-level items.
Okay, so what's the entry level?
Kitchen products. They are the classic gateway. We're talking cutting boards, serving trays, magnetic knife holders, spice organizers.
I always see those end grain cutting boards everywhere. And mechanically speaking, those are brilliant for a beginner because you're often utilizing offcuts, right?
Exactly. It's literally the scrap wood from your larger projects.
Right, so you glue them up, sand them flat, apply some food-safe mineral oil. The material cost is practically zero. But because you offer, say, custom engraving for a wedding gift, the perceived value just skyrockets.
And that aesthetic customization is exactly where the margin lives. From there, the customer trusts your craftsmanship, so they move up your funnel into home decor.
Floating shelves, wall organizers, wooden signs.
Picture frames, yeah. And the mechanics of floating shelves are particularly profitable. The hidden bracket system is super cheap, the lumber volume is low, but the visual impact on a living room is massive.
I totally get that. And once that trust is established, you see buyers returning for specialty items, particularly children's items, according to the source.
Oh, parents love custom wood pieces, toy boxes, wooden puzzles, learning towers, step stools.
Because of the durability, right?
Exactly. The underlying mechanism driving this category is durability. Anyone with a toddler knows that injection-molded plastic toys snap at the joints within weeks.
Oh, tell me about it. But a toy box constructed with solid wood and robust joinery, that survives a childhood and basically becomes a generational heirloom.
And that generational durability is what justifies the higher price point. The same logic applies to seasonal outdoor projects. Planter boxes, garden benches, birdhouses, raised garden beds.
Which are huge in the spring.
Massive. When spring hits, the demand for cedar and redwood products skyrockets because those specific woods naturally resist rot and insects. If you time your inventory to that seasonal shift, the turnover is incredibly fast.
Which finally brings us to the top of the funnel furniture. Coffee tables, console tables, dining benches, nightstands. This is where you command premium prices because you are offering something IKEA structurally cannot offer, which is custom dimensions.
Right. Mass manufacturing fails at the micro level.
Exactly. If a customer has this bizarre, narrow 34-inch alcove in their hallway, they can't buy something off the shelf. A local woodworker custom mills a console table for that exact footprint.
And people will pay a lot for that perfect fit.
But look, if the demand across all these categories is this high, and the margins make this much sense, I have to push back a little here.
Sure, go for it.
Why isn't every single person with a two-car garage running a lucrative woodworking business? I mean, I look at a beautifully crafted dovetail joint, and I just assume, well, I lack the craftsman gene.
You and everyone else.
Right. I think most people assume beginners fail because woodworking requires this innate artistic talent that you're just born with.
The source material addresses that exact assumption, actually. And the reality is much more practical. Beginners do not quit because they lack a mystical, innate talent.
And why do they quit?
They quit because they suffer from massive cognitive load and time waste. Skill is purely mechanical. It can be learned. The failure point is how people attempt to learn it today.
Like turning to the internet.
Exactly. Think about the modern beginner's workflow. They want to build a coffee table. They immediately go to YouTube. They watch a dozen scattered free tutorials.
Right. But those videos are heavily edited for retention and entertainment, not for, like, rigorous technical education.
Precisely the issue. The creator edits out the math, the measuring mistakes, the nuanced tool setups, so the beginner walks into their garage with a completely incomplete mental model.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Let's take the dovetail joint you mentioned earlier. Mechanically, a dovetail is a series of interlocking trapezoidal pins and tails. They provide immense physical strength, resisting pulling forces without needing a single drop of glue.
Which is amazing.
It is. But cutting one requires understanding the exact kerf, the thickness of your saw blade, and knowing which side of the pencil line to cut on.
Right, because if a beginner doesn't know about kerf, they cut directly on the line. Now, the joint is a 1/16 of an inch too loose, it wobbles, and the piece is totally structurally compromised.
And this leads to the ultimate frustration, which is material waste. Hardwoods like walnut or white oak are expensive. When you miscalculate a cut and ruin a $70 board, it is incredibly demoralizing.
I would just quit right there.
A lot of people do. And furthermore, beginners notoriously pick designs that completely ignore the mechanical realities of wood movement.
Wait, wood movement? Like it shrinks?
Yeah. Wood is hygroscopic, it absorbs moisture and expands across the grain. If you screw a tabletop tightly to a base without allowing for seasonal expansion, the wood will literally tear itself apart.
Wow.
Yeah, it'll just crack right down the middle in 6 months.
And because they don't know those mechanics, they spend way more time troubleshooting, fixing irreversible mistakes, and just staring at their tools in frustration than they actually do building.
Exactly. It drains the joy entirely out of the craft. It shifts from this relaxing weekend escape to a highly stressful, super expensive chore.
Okay, let's unpack this. If the disease killing this side hustle is chaos, cognitive overload, and wasted time, what is the cure? How do we solve the frustration so you can actually get to the profitable part?
The antidote to chaos is rigid structure. Professional woodworkers, no matter how talented, rarely build complex projects without detailed mathematical plans. Relying on a sketch on a napkin is just a recipe for disaster.
So a good plan does the heavy lifting for you.
Right. A quality blueprint removes the cognitive load of design so you can focus entirely on the mechanics of execution.
So what exactly separates a functional blueprint from, a rough sketch?
absolute certainty before you ever power on a saw.
I like the sound of that.
A proper blueprint provides an exact material list so you know precisely how much board footage to buy at the lumberyard, which eliminates waste. It provides a highly detailed cut list, accounting for that saw blade curve we discussed.
Okay, so it does the math for you.
Yes, it offers step-by-step assembly diagrams, specific hardware and fastener requirements, an honest difficulty rating, and realistic completion times.
Our source material specifically highlights a resource called Teds WoodWorking Plans as the primary example of this structured approach. And to be clear to you listening, we are looking at this impartially to understand how standardized resources solve this specific bottleneck. It's presented as this massive digital library containing over 16,000 woodworking projects.
Yeah, and the underlying value of a library at that scale isn't just the sheer volume of projects, it's the ability to utilize a progression strategy.
Explain that a bit more.
Well, you cannot systematically build mechanical skill if your first project is a complex cabinet. You have to scale your understanding of the materials.
Which makes total sense.
Yeah.
The smartest way to grow is gradually. You start small. A birdhouse teaches you basic crosscuts and weatherproofing.
Right, or a small wooden keepsake box. That forces you to learn precision because on a small box, a 1 mm gap in a joint is glaringly obvious.
Oh, totally. And once you master the basic cuts and grain matching there, you progress to medium builds.
Exactly. That's when you introduce structural load. Coffee tables, storage benches, bookcases. You learn how legs need to support weight without racking or swaying.
And only after you have that muscle memory under your belt do you finally tackle the large items. The dining tables, the complex cabinets where you have to perfectly square a door hinge, the large outdoor furniture sets.
And what's critical about using a resource like the TEDS library, according to the source, is that having those exact diagrams means a woodworker doesn't need to drop $10,000 on an industrial tool set.
Right, or rent a massive commercial workspace.
Exactly. When the math is already done for you, you can execute complex builds with a modest set of handheld power tools right in your driveway.
That's incredible because when you eliminate the guesswork, your mental energy is channeled into perfecting the finish, the sanding, the final presentation of the craft.
And once you master that execution, you find yourself with a garage full of gorgeous handmade wooden goods. And that is when the critical pivot happens.
From hobbyist to business owner.
Yes. You have to transition from a builder who enjoys a hobby to a business owner who understands commerce.
But how do you find buyers? And honestly, how do you even know what to charge them? Because pricing feels like a massive trap.
Whoa, it really is.
I see beginners making something beautiful and then selling it for basically the cost of the wood, just because they feel weird asking for money.
What's fascinating here is the psychology of pricing, which is notoriously the biggest hurdle for creatives. Beginners just chronically undervalue their own work.
Why do you think that is?
Because they enjoy the process of making it, or because they are intimately aware of a tiny, invisible sanding flaw on the bottom of a shelf that no customer will ever notice. So they experience imposter syndrome. They hesitate to ask for the true market value.
So how do you calculate a fair, profitable price without feeling like a fraud?
You have to detach your emotions and get strictly analytical. You must calculate every single physical and temporal input.
So obviously you factor in the board foot costs of the lumber.
Right, but the hidden costs eat beginners alive. You have to price in the hardware, the wood glue, the specialized finishing oils. You must account for toolware.
Oh, toolware, like blades and stuff.
Yes. Carbide saw blades and router bits dull over time and require expensive sharpening or replacement. You have to calculate the consumables, like the dozens of sanding discs you burn through.
That adds up fast.
It does. You factor in the electricity running your shop vacuum, the packaging materials, the fuel for delivery, and most crucially, your labor time.
Okay, I have to challenge this right here because labor time is super tricky.
How so?
If I am a complete beginner and my workflow is incredibly inefficient, it might take me 20 hours to build a single cutting board. Even at a modest hourly rate, I can't look a customer in the eye and charge $400 for a basic maple cutting board.
Yeah.
How do you bridge the gap between amateur speed and professional pricing?
That is the exact friction point of scaling. The answer is workflow optimization and batching.
Batching.
Yeah, you cannot price your product based on inefficient one-off amateur hours. Instead of making one cutting board in 20 hours, you optimize your shop flow to make 10 cutting boards at the exact same time.
Oh, I see.
You run all 10 boards through the table saw at once, you route all the edges sequentially, you apply the finish in one session, suddenly your labor per unit drops from 20 hours down to maybe 2 hours.
Wow. Now, the $400 calculation becomes a highly competitive, profitable $80 price point.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. You aren't just getting better at cutting wood, you are engineering a manufacturing process.
And the mindset shift for the customer is equally important. Buyers are not purchasing raw lumber. If they wanted that, they'd visit a lumber yard. They are buying the optimization you just mentioned.
They are paying for your craftsmanship, the bespoke customization, and a level of quality that ensures the piece won't end up in a landfill in 3 years.
Right. And once your pricing math is locked in, the next mechanical step of the business is distribution. You have to put the physical product in front of the right demographic.
And the source highlights several key avenues for this, heavily emphasizing local craft fairs and farmers markets for early growth.
Yes, and I think craft fairs are uniquely powerful for woodworking because wood is an inherently tactile medium.
Definitely. A highly edited photo on a screen is one thing, but when a potential customer physically runs their hand over a tabletop, sanded to 400 grit and finished with natural beeswax.
Oh, that physical sensation builds immediate visceral trust. They understand the premium price the absolute second they touch it.
Tactile trust is vital. But ignoring the digital infrastructure is a huge mistake. The modern side hustle requires mastering social media.
Oh, absolutely. Instagram, Facebook Marketplace, Pinterest. However, the reality of these platforms is that you aren't just fighting for local attention, you are battling algorithms.
So you can't just post a dark, blurry photo of a table in a messy garage.
No, you really can't. You have to stage it. You need proper lighting, a clean background, maybe a styled living room setup. You are selling a lifestyle aesthetic just as much as you are selling the wood.
And then you have the dedicated online marketplaces. Etsy is the behemoth in the handmade space, though the algorithm there heavily favors sellers who offer free shipping and rapid response times.
Right. And then eBay, local classifieds, and eventually migrating away from marketplace fees by establishing your own direct-to-consumer website are the logical next steps.
But underneath all those digital platforms remains the most powerful, high-converting marketing engine in existence.
Word of mouth.
Exactly. In the bespoke furniture industry, a satisfied customer doesn't just buy from you again. They become your uncommissioned sales team.
It is the ultimate snowball effect. You deliver a custom dining table to a client, it sits in the center of their home, they host a dinner party, and because the piece is a striking conversation starter, every guest eventually asks, "Where did you get this table?"
And the host drops your name. That single table leads to a referral for a custom bookshelf, which leads to a bathroom vanity, which leads to an outdoor patio set.
And to manage and accelerate that snowball effect, the source outlines some essential operational tips. First, relentlessly focus on quality control over sheer volume. If you try to operate like a factory, you lose the soul that people are paying for.
Which is the whole point of why they buy from you.
Exactly. Second, rigorously document your work. A high-quality digital portfolio of past projects is your best tool for closing high-ticket custom commissions.
And critically, you must constantly recalculate your material costs. Lumber prices fluctuate wildly based on global supply chains.
Oh, absolutely. If oak prices jump 30% and you don't adjust your retail price, your profit margin just vanishes overnight.
Here's where it gets really interesting. What happens when that word-of-mouth snowball gets so massive that the demand outgrows your weekend hours? The source material specifically tackles the reality of scaling this from a Saturday hobby into a full-time primary income business.
It is highly viable for those who want it. The transition from side hustle to full-time operation usually involves standardizing product lines rather than relying purely on random custom commissions.
So, like a signature collection.
Yeah, for example, a woodworker might develop a signature cohesive furniture collection, a specific style of mid-century modern bed frames, matching nightstands and dressers.
By standardizing the designs, they streamline their material purchasing and optimize their build times.
Which drastically increases their hourly profit.
But, and the source makes a crucial point of highlighting this, it is perfectly acceptable and often preferable if this remains strictly a rewarding side gig.
Totally.
The internet hustle culture dictates that every hobby must become a million-dollar empire. But not everyone wants to deal with commercial leases, hiring employees, or managing quarterly tax brackets.
Precisely. If your ultimate goal is simply to utilize weekend hours to build beautiful objects, maybe earn an extra $500 a month to fund your tool upgrades, or pay for a family vacation while engaging in a tactile craft you genuinely love,
Then you've won.
you have already achieved an incredible level of success. You've successfully merged passion and commerce on your own terms.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner? Let's synthesize the mechanics of what we've explored today. Woodworking sits at an incredibly unique, highly profitable intersection of historical craftsmanship and modern consumer exhaustion.
It really does. It offers the rare opportunity to build something tangible with your own hands and tap into a market that deeply values and will pay a premium for authenticity.
But unlocking that potential requires avoiding the devastating beginner's trap of cognitive overload and wasted time.
Right. You don't fail because you lack talent, you fail because you lack a roadmap.
Success requires adopting a structured progression strategy, choosing the right projects for your current mechanical skill level, and relying on dependable mathematical blueprints.
Like the Teds Woodworking Library example we dissected, it's all about eliminating guesswork and material waste. You must treat the workflow and the pricing with the same respect you give the chisel and the saw.
And honestly, that principle scales far beyond woodworking. Whenever you apply rigorous, structured learning to any unstructured passion, you remove the friction, you stop troubleshooting, and you actually start building.
If we pull back and connect this to the macro picture, our discussion today raises a fascinating sociological question that I want to leave you with.
Well,
We are accelerating into an increasingly digital, AI-driven reality. Everything around us is becoming intangible, simulated, and instantaneous.
two.
Yet the economic data shows consumers are craving the physical weight, the texture, and the undeniable authenticity of handmade wooden objects more than ever.
The pushback we talked about.
Right. It forces you to wonder what other traditional, heavily tactile skills are currently sitting on the verge of a massive cultural and economic renaissance.
Wow, that is a brilliant thought to chew on. As the digital world gets louder, are we about to see a massive resurgence in analog crafts? Hand-forged blacksmithing, bespoke leatherworking, maybe traditional bookbinding.
It wouldn't surprise me. The pendulum of culture always swings back to the center.
And maybe that flat pack, disposable cardboard box furniture we talked about at the top of the show is finally losing its grip on our living rooms. We are so glad you joined us for this deep dive today.
Oh,
Keep dissecting the world around you, keep exploring those tactile skills, and maybe go get your hands a little dusty this weekend.
have fun with it.
Catch you next time.